Obama did it better. Obama did it better. The new talking point from MAGA is, well, Obama dropped bombs too. Yeah, he did. And he did it better. Obama was able to use surgical strikes and limited military operations to take out targets and not start a fucking war. How about that shit? He did it better. In fact, most of the things that the Trumpies like about Trump, Obama did better. We'll go with unemployment. Obama did better. Economy. Obama did better. Deportations. Obama did better. He was able to deport way more people than Donald Trump, and he's able to do it on 1/10 of the freaking budget. Yeah? And without sending fucking goon squads into American cities. Obama did it better. Obama was able to get across a healthcare bill. Trump can't. Obama did it better. Obama was able to get tax cuts for the low and middle class. Trump for the upper class, for the rich. Obama did it better. So trying to say that Obama did it too on any subject just shows the failure of Trump and the failure of his people to recognize that everything that Trump said Obama did it fucking better. They just don't like that a black man did it better than a white man. And one last point, let's not forget that Obama was able to get Iran to enter into a non-proliferation treaty for nukes. Trump couldn't do it, so Obama did it better.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Rundown. We have a number of stories that we're going to be covering tonight. Most of them you can really guess roughly what they're about. I think there's some nuance and important discussion to be had there, but we're going to start on one that you probably haven't heard about. A number of states across the United States have been implementing or are considering measures that would limit access to life-saving medications for tens of thousands of low-income people across the U.S. The moves, experts warn, are likely to lead to an economic and public health crisis. 17 states and the District of Columbia have already taken steps to cut costs for their AIDS Drug Assistance Program, that's ADAP, while 5 others are considering similar measures. Since 1996, the federally funded ADAP program have helped low-income and uninsured and underinsured people afford HIV and AIDS medications, primarily through federal grants via the Ryan White Comprehensive AIDS Resources Emergency Act of 1990. An estimated, before actually I get to that. So what does this do? This is a program that basically helps people pay for their AIDS medications. Now, these medications are amazing. AIDS is another one of those. And this is, there's a downside to success, which is people forget how bad things really were. People are like, polio, measles, well, those weren't that bad. Who cares if these things come back? No, they were really, really bad. But we haven't had to live with them for so long that we don't realize the severity of having someone who is in a cabinet level position saying, nah, vaccines don't work. That's absolutely insane. And it's going to hurt a lot of Americans. And presumably we're America first, and we're going to get rid of these things. AIDS, nobody had the first idea how to even combat it. It was a retrovirus. It's one of the hardest things we have ever had to deal with. It was because at the time, when it first came out, they thought only gay people could get it. That's absolutely not true. But it was called the gay cancer because, like cancer, it was thought to be almost unstoppable. Now, we've been able to do a lot about cancers nowadays. There are still some cancers that we really can't touch. But this, we managed to eventually come up with a regimen of pills. And we've been able to, it used to be, I remember when it first came out, it was like 12 pills you had to take throughout the course of a day. And it's still reasonably the same cocktail, but they've managed to get it down to 2 or 3 pills, I think, that reduce your viral load to a trivial amount, an amount that cannot be detected. You still have it. If you go off these medications, in fact, it comes back worse than if you hadn't taken the medications at all. But if you go back on the meds, as long as nothing happened in the interim, you can go back on the meds. But it's a little bit like antibiotics in that sense, which is if you go off of antibiotics mid-course, they come back worse. The disease comes back far worse. Going off of these for even a short period of time can make you vulnerable to any number of opportunistic infections, including but not limited to opportunistic cancers. So you can end up going off of these meds for a short period of time, getting back on them, but in the meantime, getting a brand new, completely untreatable, unrelated cancer or other disease. So it's vital that people who are on these medications stay on them. And it's a privilege to be able to treat these things. And I mean that like for society, we didn't used to have a treatment. We've got one now. We should take care that we've got it. And we should recognize the privilege that we as a society have to be able to treat this disease now and to help keep it from spreading by making sure that people have access to this treatment. We're going to talk about Florida because they are the ones who like to screw shit up the worst and the fastest of anybody. An estimated 16,000 people living in Florida with HIV right now are at risk to losing access to their HIV/AIDS medications. And again, when you cut off access to this stuff, it's worse than if they hadn't started taking it. Now, they may have lived longer already. They may have passed AIDS. You know, if you get AIDS, you know, you could die of it reasonably in short order. So they might already be dead, but the disease will come back faster than it would have been if you hadn't taken it at all. So 16,000 in Florida alone at risk for losing their medications after the Department of Health issued an emergency rule that will drastically cut the number of people who are eligible. What was the ruling? The ruling was to reduce ADAP eligibility from 400% of the poverty level to 130% of the poverty level. That means that somebody who was previously eligible at $64,000 a year now has to be earning less than $20,500 a year. Honestly, at first glance, that 400% of the poverty line. I mean, you know, come on. That's you're talking people with incomes of $64,000. I can see why somebody who hasn't really looked at this would say, well, dear Lord, why does somebody making $64,000 a year need assistance with this? The reason is simple. These drugs cost $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month. What that means is, and they can cost more than that. $5,000 is the average. Sometimes they cost a little less, sometimes they cost a little more, depends on the particular regimen, depends on where you're getting it from and what state you're in. But roughly, on average, these drugs cost $5,000 a month to keep you alive. So if you're earning $64,000 a month, these drugs cost roughly 95% of everything you make just to stay alive. That's before we've taken food into account, before we've taken anything else into account. Washington Post did a story on a Tori Samuel who has lived with HIV for decades. She is a part-time worker from Ocala, Florida, she has thrived. She has been a positive member of her community. She married her husband and gave birth to 3 children, none of whom have HIV, because she has been taking her medication for decades. Now she's at risk of losing it. She was told that now she's 43 years old and was told that her income of just over $3,800 a month, which is not too bad for an income, it's part-time, is too much to qualify for any assistance whatsoever in paying for medications that cost $5,000 a month. Her income, $3,800 a month, is too much to qualify for any assistance in paying for medication that's $5,000 a month. Florida Surgeon General Joseph A. Lorado has said that the rising cost of the program, the ADAP program, and the expiration of subsidies for the American Care Act have resulted in higher premiums nationwide and have resulted in the states cutting ADAP subsidies from, again, 400% down to 130% of the poverty level, which, again, if you don't look at it, makes sense. I mean, we're going to subsidize somebody who's earning $60,000 a year? Yes, because the drugs cost $5,000 a month. And again, these are productive people. These are people who are not. The problem is I don't want to be ableist in talking about people who need assistance but these are people who otherwise don't need assistance. And the problem is once the infection comes back, they can spread it to other people. He has said that the Florida Surgeon General has said that without these drug assistance programs, it will become a crisis for the state of Florida. Let's see. Let's see. I had more of that quote, but apologies. I don't appear to have it now. Bear with me, if you would please. All right. He has said that, at least again within the state of Florida, what they're looking at is both an economic and medical crisis, as these 16,000 people will require significant medical care in the future as they can go from being HIV positive to having full-blown AIDS. And the state will be required to deal with them in the emergency rooms and in the hospitals as they get sicker, and they will infect other people. He called, the Florida Surgeon General called this short-sighted, as have a number of other, let's see if I can find it, congressmen at the federal level. Again, the whole idea behind these subsidies was to actually help all of us by helping keep costs down preventatively. But it looks like Florida is not interested in preventatively helping the people who need it. And that this is targeting mostly a segment of the population that Christian nationalists seem to think are expendable is not lost on me. I don't think that Florida, I don't know if the governor of Florida is a Christian nationalist. I don't know how much control the governor of Florida has over this, but I do know that since Obama's first term, him having a fiercely Christian nationalist, fiercely Christian nationalist VP in Mike Pence, I think, yeah, they're pro-life, but only certain life. And some life, all life is equal in God's eyes, but some life is more equal than others, according to the God that they apparently commune with and who tells them which programs to cut, despite the fact that those programs in saving lives is actually better for both the communities and our economy. It's weird. It's almost like some people in office want some Americans to die. And it might be based on their sexual orientation and the color of their skin. Unfortunate, but it looks like that may be the case. If anyone wants to tell me I'm wrong, I'll go onto their program and have that discussion with them. Meanwhile, Oversight Dems are calling prison guard Tova Noel to testify on March 26th. She is a prison guard who started on, I think it was the same day, if I recall, it was the same day that Epstein reportedly killed himself. That was her first day of work. She had been prepared to work at that tier and had suddenly come into suspicious amounts of money, at least as is reported by a number of outlets. You can find that on our Discord. One inmate reportedly overheard guards talking about a plan to kill Epstein. I do think there's a lot of suspicious stuff around her. I'm not sure. I'm glad they're still chipping away at it. But we will hopefully learn more about what Congress plans to do with Pam Bondi, who has yet to release all of the Epstein files or follow the Epstein Transparency Act, which said she could withhold files under certain conditions, none of which she has met, including but not limited to saying what's been withheld and on what grounds. She hasn't done it, and she'd rather play games with Congress. Well, she's in good company when it comes to playing games and this administration. The White House has made a stunning attack on CNN. They have posted this. CNN is lying to undermine Operation Epic Fury's crushing success. That's actually a really bold fucking claim. Now, those of you who have watched this show for a while know that I'm not a huge fan of CNN. They have gotten shit wrong, and we have gone off of something that they have said, and then we have actually retracted those statements, and they haven't. So they do get it wrong. They're still a legitimate, if mediocre, news organization, and kind of in the middle. So, but I've never seen them deliberately lie, at least anything that I can tell. And doing so to undermine the success of the U.S. in a wartime is quite a claim. Fake news, CNN is at it again. Well, this is fucking out of the White House. While the U.S. forces deliver crushing blows to obliterate Iran's terrorist regime, have we obliterated it, or are we obliterating it? It sounds like he's suggesting we're obliterating it. If that's true, it doesn't look like that from where I'm sitting, but we'll talk about that in a minute. CNN's hacks journalists are peddling Democratic-sourced fiction to undermine our decisive victories in Operation. Why on earth would they want to do that? Why would anyone want to do that? He doesn't answer that very obvious and rather important question, unless they're unpatriotic, I guess, which he does say at one point, but we'll get to that again. CNN alleged that the Pentagon and National Security Center, quote, did not plan for Iran's willingness to close the Strait of Hormuz. That is an outright lie. That is not what CNN said. We have the article. We're going to show it to you. The quote, did not plan? No, that is in nothing that CNN has put out in the last 2 or 3 days prior to this. No article suggests that the Pentagon and the National Security Council and Trump himself did not plan for Iran's willingness to close the Strait of Hormuz. That is patently false. CNN never made that claim. Wrong. As Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has made crystal clear, the military has planned for this exact contingency for decades. Yes, CNN in fact made the argument that they have planned for this for decades and that they have workshopped this and war gamed it for decades. CNN actually said that. So he's agreeing with them. Operation Epic Fury, deliberately designed to annihilate Iran's Navy, missiles, drones, and launch capabilities precisely to eliminate any meaningful threat to global shipping lanes at the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, by the way, in completely unrelated news today, Donald Trump has asked other nations, including EU nations and specifically the UK, to assist in opening these lanes that we have stopped all meaningful threats to. That's right, the United States is not capable of keeping, at least according to the president, he is asking for help from the very allies that he has been trampling on for the last year and shitting on and saying are worthless, and we aren't going to help them, and we don't want to work with them. He is now asking for Ukrainian help in shooting down Shahed drones. He is asking for UK's help and France's help in opening the straits, which are currently closed, and we are apparently not able to open. And he is threatening Iran with complete annihilation if they don't open it, but we planned for this, prepared for this, and successfully eliminated any meaningful threat to shipping in the Straits of Hormuz. Is anyone actually listening to what he's saying? At least anyone on the right? Any Republicans? Do they have absolutely no shame in the fact that they're willing to accept the doublespeak that he is both saying, we have completely obliterated all their offensive capabilities, but we need help in dealing with their offensive capabilities because we've never needed help from anyone before and don't need it now except for today in this one instance that has never actually happened. That's what he's saying. Someone tell me I'm wrong. Operation F. And thanks to President Trump's competent commitment to energy dominance, America is fully prepared to crush short-term disruptions to emerge stronger than ever. CNN further alleged top Trump officials acknowledged this to lawmakers in a classified briefing. No, they said that the officials acknowledged something else, not that they didn't plan for it. Again, we'll show what they did in a minute. Wrong briefing. Participants torched this lie. Tom Cotton, as chairman of the Intelligence Committee, let me make it clear, whoever leaked this lied. CNN should do some fact-checking. The U.S. has planned for Iran to close the straits for decades. Again, CNN actually implied this. They implied that the U.S. had planned this for decades, and they said that the Intelligence Committee called this the DOD called this the nightmare scenario that for decades they had been trying to avoid. That's what they said. So that implies that they'd been planning on this for decades. They've been workshopping this. They knew this could happen. Of course they did. That's what CNN said. I received a classified briefing from this administration. It is categorically false that they did not plan for the closing of the strait. Nobody said they did. Lawmakers and national security officials have known for years that this was Iran's plan. Yes, Iran told everybody that this was their plan. They've threatened to do this many times before. They've made it crystal clear that if we attack them, they would do this. They've said it. Under President Trump's bold and resolute leadership, Operation Epic Fury continues to advance its clear objectives. Okay. Destroying ballistic missiles, arsenal production, obliterating its navy, severing support for terrorist proxies, and ensuring the regime can never threaten the free world again. No amount of CNN hackery will ever change that. The reason this is important is because you now have Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, we'll have on what he said in just a minute, the White House, the Pentagon, coming out and saying that a news organization lied when it did not, saying that that news organization has undermined America's war when it has not. And if you are interested in making sure that only your version of events comes out, then you have to be the only one who is allowed and government sanctioned to talk. This is explicitly why the First Amendment was the very first amendment. The government is not allowed to infringe on the news media. They're not, and this is explicitly what he's doing. He is lying about what they said and lying about a number of other things in order to affect the news media. Donald Trump then posted this, which I think is actually phenomenally scary. It is a listing of how he has changed media. Defunded PBS, NPR defunded, Terry Morgan out at ABC, Joey Reid out at MSNBC, Lester Holt out at NBC, massive layoffs at Washington Post, Colbert leaving CBS, fact-checking, no more biased fact-checking at Meta, Chuck Todd out at NBC. This is a who's who of, and PBS and NPR. PBS is the public broadcast. It represents Americans. National Public Radio. It's not that they ever lied or said anything that was untrue. It was that they called him out on his bullshit. Truth Social is booming, though. Who owns that and who started that? Free speech on X? Yeah, try saying that Trump lied about something that he actually lied about on X, and see what the free speech warriors do then. So Trump then posted this. So what did Hegseth actually say? Let's have a listen.
Some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business. And I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days, alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has hit, because that's what they do. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and so do you, if it can be admitted. Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage.
Yep.
CNN doesn't think we thought of that.
That's not what they
It's a
said.
fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better. Another example of a fake headline that I saw yesterday. War widening. Here's a real headline for you for an actual patriotic press. How about Iran shrinking, going underground? You see, Iran's leaders are hiding in bunkers and moving into civilian areas. The only thing that is widening is our advantage. Not to mention our Gulf partners stepping up even more, now going on the offense, and have always been with us on the defense with collective and integrated air defenses.
Sorry for the echo there. I'm not going to play that again. Hopefully you could hear it the first time it was audible. It is absolutely, he's telling the news, this is Goebbels. He is telling the news media how to make him happy and what the press should be saying. The war is widening. That is absolutely accurate. And the idea that the White House or the Pentagon should be writing headlines for the news media is extraordinarily scary. There was a roundtable discussion on this. Let me see. Okay, hold on. Let's have Here we go. We'll do this, and there should be no echo here. There may be no audio, though. Let me get to
within the next hour. We could hang up within in 1 hour. You'd be reading about taking out nuclear power plants or power plants that create electricity. Remember this. Remember this. We're being nice. I could take out things within the next hour. We could hang up within in 1 hour. You'd be reading about taking out nuclear power plants or power plants that creates the electricity, that creates the water. They have desalinization all over the place. We could do things that would be so bad they could literally never rebuild as a nation again. And we're trying to be nice about it. We're not doing it. Now, they'll go around and shoot civilians all over the place, but we don't do that. But we could take out elements of what they have in terms of infrastructure. They would virtually never be able, time wouldn't matter, never be able to reproduce it. And so far, we've chosen not to do that. But we.
All right. That's terrifying because that means he's considering it. And he seems to be thinking about using nuclear weapons in Iran. The reality is that right now, we don't have control of the strait. Right now, nobody can go through the strait. It is having a significant impact on the economy. He is using his, let's see, he's using his emergency war powers, in fact, to try to offset it. He has used the Defense Production Act of 1950 to order oil refineries in California that have been shut down for violating local California law, including for pouring oil literally into the water supply, dumping it. They got caught, fined. They were told to stop. They didn't, so they got shut down. Gavin Newsom said Donald Trump started a war, admitted it would spike gas prices nationwide, told Americans it was a small price to pay, and now he's using this crisis of his own making to attempt what he's wanted to do for years, open California's coast for his oil industry friends so they can poison our beaches. Multiple economists have said that there is no way that any of the refineries or oil drilling that Trump is proposing, activating here through his War Powers Act, would actually influence the market in time. It takes 10 years to get one of these things up and running from scratch. These aren't from scratch. Some of them have been running before, but they're also local, so they'll offset oil in California, which might have a small effect on the market because you take California's need and reduce it market-wide, but it's just California. Having said that, it is interesting. I'd like to know, if we're not at war, how is he using the War Powers Act? Trump wants it both ways. We're at war when it comes to him having more power and control, and it's an emergency. He needs to get people into he needs to get ice into places, and he needs to activate oil reserves and use his powers to make oil companies richer by making sure we shut down all those terrible windmills because they're making the whales go crazy. And build up oil, because he promised that the U.S. would increase production. But he's using war powers. Are we at war, or are we not at war? Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Let me go back to, just because I want to, okay, this was... So obviously, a lot of people are talking about this attack on CNN, and the concern is if he can attack CNN, he can attack anybody, and he will. Let's listen to this. This was, I think this was Hexeth. The audio is not coming in.
Hormuz. This is always more fake news from CNN. Report.
Oh, yeah, that's what we heard already. So, let's see. Pete Hegseth says, Sooner day, yeah, okay. What I want to do is find... All right, this is the actual story that CNN posted. The Pentagon and National Security Council significantly underestimated Iran's willingness to close the Strait of Hormuz in response to U.S. military strikes while planning the ongoing operation, according to multiple sources familiar with the matter. Well, golly gee, they have multiple sources. Now, they could be lying, but it kind of looks like it's true because they don't look like they have to bring mine layers. Well, they would have already had the mine layers there if they thought Iran was actually going to pull the trigger on this. It turns out Iran has been threatening to close that strait for more than 40 years. More than 40 years. Whenever they get sanctioned, whenever there's a war, they threaten to close the strait. Whenever anything upsets them, they threaten to close it. In 40 years... You want to know how many times they've actually done it? Once. This time. This is the first time they've ever closed it. It's been temporarily inaccessible when Iran and Iraq go to war. This is the first time they've closed it. So, yes, Secretary Hegseth is correct when he says, well, of course, they've threatened to do this. They've threatened it for 40 years. We have workshopped it, and we have said it is the nightmare scenario if they ever actually do it. But what they gambled on was, they always say they're going to do it, and they never do. This time they did. And it's clear we weren't ready because we didn't have the mine layers. We didn't preemptively strike Kharg, Island, which we would have needed to do if we were going to try to keep the strait open. So it's clear we didn't think that actually closed the strait, but this is narcissism at work. You cannot question, you cannot say he underestimated everything. No, he knew what the Ayatollah was going to do before the Ayatollah even knew it. He has to be the best. That's why comparing Obama to Trump is so offensive. The idea that Trump isn't the best at absolutely everything. He didn't underestimate anything. And if you say he underestimated it, you're a liar, and we're going to call you out. Put your name up on the White House website as a lying fake news company. Holy shit. It's the deliberate decimation of the news media. President Donald Trump's national security team failed to fully account for the potential consequences of what some officials have described as the worst case scenario now facing the administration. Oh, that's an absolute lie. Trump is asking for help from EU nations in reopening the strait because he wants them to get in on the Iranian killing action. That's why. Yeah, it's not because they failed to account for the consequences. Trump is asking other countries for help. That's unprecedented. Trump actually asking for help. That's unprecedented. But he's doing it because he fully accounted for everything. He just he knew other countries would want to help. While key departments at Energy and Treasury were present for some of the planning meetings, we read this report when it first came out. The Treasury Secretary and Energy Secretary were both absent. You'd wonder why the Energy Secretary needs to be there. The Energy Secretary needs to be there for two reasons. One, obviously the oil. Two, actually nuclear weapons fall under the Department of Energy. So they figured rather than keep our weapons in one department and nuclear power plants in another, keep all the experts in one department. So nuclear warheads are actually managed by the Department of Energy. This became important when DOD just said, we don't need a Department of Energy, and fired like 90% of the Department of Energy, including the guys who make sure that the warheads don't accidentally go off. Because he didn't know that's what the Department of Energy does. I've known that since I was like 16. What the hell? Yeah, Elon Musk is a misunderstood genius. Anyways, let's see. Trump's preference for leaning on tight circle of advisors, basically means that they downplayed and did not fully understand the ramifications if, for once, they decided to close the lane. And they assumed that they wouldn't, and they did. Let's see, high-risk naval tanker escorts. The Pentagon believes that they're too dangerous to conduct. They are. That's why we're not doing it, is because we don't want them to start sinking U.S. ships, so we're staying out of there. The president told Fox News that oil tanker crews should show some guts and go through the strait. Yeah, we showed the picture of what happened to the first tanker that showed some guts and went through the strait. The whole thing. I think I took it down because I thought it was too. Nope, here it is. This is the first tanker that went through the strait. Based on Trump saying it was safe and they should show some guts and go through the strait. That's what happened to the first tanker that followed Trump's advice. But Trump's always right. Trump knows what the hell he's doing. And Trump wants the oil tankers and the captains to take the risk because the U.S. military can't deal with it. The way I know the military can't deal with it is because this tanker's on fire. If the military had dealt with it, that tanker wouldn't be on fire. If we were prepared, that wouldn't have happened. Many countries, especially those who are affected by Iran's attempted closure of the strait, it's not attempted, they've closed it, will be sending warships in conjunction with the United States of America to keep the strait open. By the way, the UK has decided not to. The warship that they sent, apparently we're being told now they are not sending. France is still sending a carrier and 10 ships, but it's defensive, and we don't know if it's to help keep the strait open or not. We have already destroyed 100% of Iran's 100% of Iran's military. I think that means the war's over. Doesn't that mean the war's over? We have destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability, but it's easy for them to send a drone or to drop a mine or deliver some close-range missile. Wait. Does Trump know what 100% means? Does 100? Trump has a really hard time with percentages. And there's been multiple studies, and they found that he speaks at a fourth grade level, and this is a perfect example of it. We have already destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability, but they can still do a lot of damage with the military capability we didn't destroy. That's what he's saying. Absolute clown. But it's easy for them to drop a mine or deliver a close-range missile somewhere. Hopefully, China, France, Japan, South Korea, and the UK and others that are affected will send ships so that the strait will no longer be a threat by a nation. Wait a minute. I thought we handled it. I thought we understood this and fully comprehended. Why are we asking for help from China? Just a few countries: China, France, Japan, South Korea, and the UK and others. If you guys could help us with this war that we were perfectly prepared for in a situation that we anticipated, if you could come and help us out, that would be really great. Absolute clown. That's getting people killed because we still don't know why we're in. I mean, we know, but it's got nothing to do. It's gotten if any MAGA person would like to explain to me our objectives there, because they don't know. Nobody knows. Even Trump doesn't know our objectives there. So, in the meantime, what are we looking at? Moments ago, we discussed this. We attacked Kharg. That was the name of it, island. This was from yesterday. Now, this is extremely important. Kharg Island is one of many islands, but it's the single most important of those islands for controlling the strait. Now, we spoke with Commander yesterday on this, and not yesterday, the day before, and he had pointed out that, in fact, we would need complete control of about 6 islands in order to prevent Iran from shooting anything that goes in the strait or sinking anything that goes into that strait. The only way to control those islands would be boots on the ground. We are sending between 2,500 and 5,000 troops. We don't know how many. There's been some discussion over the numbers, but we are sending a number of Marines. Presumably, they're going to be landing at Kharg Island. The problem is that island is like Vietnam. That island is phenomenally well defended with underground bunkers, with assumptions that they were going to get attacked by the U.S. and it was going to be a ground fight. And it's trapped. It's a severe military installation. We're going to show you what it is in just a minute. I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. Well, that's awfully nice of you, God King, but you're really not supposed to be doing that anyway, because that's a civilian. Those are civilian targets. Everybody's been looking the other way because this is the United States, but you're not supposed to be targeting those. So, yeah, reasons for decency reasons, I've chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure of the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships, I will immediately reconsider this decision. So his decency, he's making it very clear, his decency has really very tight bounds, which we were already aware of, but thank you for codifying that. What? Let me get this down, and let's take a look at the island. This is Kharg Island. Now, I don't know if it looks big or small to you. It's a reasonably small island. What we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on, actually, let me, there we go. We're going to zoom in on that piece of it. And, all right, and then what I'd like to do is just, hey, I want to circle a couple of areas here. So what they've hit is the airport, which I think is just north of this, a number of buildings that we believe were military. So first of all, let's, there is, where's the observation tower? Oh, I'm having to relearn my way through this. Oh, the observation tower may not. It has to be on this thing. So right here, let me. We'll make the writing just a little smaller. Okay. So let's see. Yep, this. Okay. He did not strike. So you can see, first of all, well, what I'm going to start. Okay. None of these oil fields, but if he hits one, he hits all of them. I mean, he hits one, they could all go up. And this is obviously a very nice target. Some of these buildings here are military installations that he struck, and he showed video of him striking these very close to the oil fields. But our understanding is none of the oil fields were set off. Now, some of these embers could light any of these other oil fields here. None of that seems to have happened. So far, he's absolutely correct that we've struck, to the best of our understanding, only military targets, and Iran has not contradicted that. A standard oil carrier is right there, so you can get a size for the island. The island, here's a standard one, but there's a smaller one right next to it. But here's what makes this so important. 90% of all of Iranian's oil goes through this island. And if you take a look at this, they've got, and you can see just sort of little ships all around the island. They've got a dock here that looks like it can hold at least, let's see, what, 1, 2, maybe 3 full-size tankers. Take a look at this dock right here and consider that they can hold a full-size tanker on either side of that. They've got a lot of smaller ships, probably maintenance ships, docked there. They've got a full tanker on the left. They've got this right here. So, let me All right. So let me double check. Okay, no. Okay, I'm going to take this down. There we go. Oh, and it's still up on the, yeah, there it is. All right. You know, now I got to clear that off. Yeah, we don't, I want to use that more often. And if I did, I would know how to use it well, but this isn't time. We don't, you know, our production values are questionable as it is. Let's see. Oh, we'll get to that one in a second. So, what is the plan as of this moment? Oh, thank you. How do we get out of this? That's a really good question. Now, a few people have asked Trump, and what he does is he chides anyone who asks him, and he says, "What a stupid question! I'm the commander-in-chief. Do you think I would tell you if I knew?" Which tells you just how stupid he is, because we've been in wars before, and even George W. Bush could come up with some kind of idiotic answer. You know, it's like, oh, well, we're going to take the battle to them, or we're going to do this, not, you know, chide people. And again, it shows his narcissism. He's like, how dare you question me, as if I don't have an answer to that. But the reason I'm not giving you an answer to that is because I don't have an answer to that. We believe that what they thought was going to happen was that as soon as they take out the leadership, the people who were all fighting in the streets would revolt and would take control of the country, and then they would, let's see, they would. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second, and I'm trying to. Okay, there we go. They would presumably, hopefully, have a democratic leadership, but it looks like we've actually been preparing, and the article we just dropped on the Discord, we've been preparing the former son of the Shah that we had installed to go back and take over, resume his sort of broken leadership. He was broken when the first Khomeini overthrew his father. Go back and rule. Now, actually, he was Alex's preferred choice to have rule. But having said that, and Alex was the dissident with whom we had spoken. We have been reaching out to him. We have not heard from him since the war started. But we hope he's safe. We do know that internet's been cut off, and they've been hunting down people who have Starlinks and killing them. So we have no reason to think that he's not safe, just being quiet. At any rate, he supported the Shah, who is the son of the former Shah, and the Trump administration has been preparing to install him. But unfortunately, there wasn't this nationalist uprising that they had anticipated. Trump on Air Force One said that they were the Iranian leadership was so terrible that what they were doing was shooting protesters in the head. That's what he said they were doing, shooting protesters in the head, and that made them terrible. Someone should have told ICE that. He also said that protesters were afraid to go out in the streets, even just to speak up, because they were being attacked for protest, just for protesting. This is Trump making these arguments. At any rate, it didn't happen, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. They have successfully closed the Strait of Hormuz, so now what? Our suspicion is this. He's going to take the island. Once he takes the island, he's cut off almost all of the oil going to and from Iran. Their oil production is cut by 90%. The money from the oil sales is how they pay the Republican Guard. So the thinking is that Trump's best bet at this point is to destroy their economy to the point where there is an uprising just so people can eat. That's the plan. He may have to commit a couple of war crimes to do it. That hasn't stopped him in the past. So we'll see. But if the current Ayatollah can't pay the Republican Guard, the other problem, though, with this, though, is, and this is something that Lance had pointed out to us all at the beginning, and it's really worth understanding, when you attack a country, two things can happen. You can demoralize people, and they'll surrender easily, and and that's what happened in Venezuela. That's what expected to happen here. And we said at the beginning, this was not Venezuela. And what was far more likely to happen was to nationalize even some of the most ardent, strident rebels against the regime, and to only make them say, you know, our regime may be bad, but it isn't killing our children with 120 at a school and just blowing it up. So, hold on. I will check I'm getting some DMs. I will check them in a minute. So, unfortunately, we seem to have gotten the second effect, and they weren't prepared for that. So now we're stuck with asking other countries to help. These are the very countries that we said we don't need their help, we don't want their help, and they're beneath us, especially because they don't recognize why we deserve a Nobel Prize or a FIFA prize or an IKEA prize or whatever prize Trump needs now to satiate his ego, and Greenland, while they're, not too busy stumbling over giving us things. That's it. That's the plan. We've got one other article I wanted to... the Trump quote also should be, I think, let's see, there's Politico, the highest level... oh, yes, this was oh, thank you. So, let's see. The other thing that... it turns out we have Hegseth, an article came out saying that Hegseth, this was from yesterday, Hegseth ignored military officials when he slashed offices that limit risk to civilians. Top military officials warned the Pentagon unsuccessfully last year not to gut oversight offices that limit the risk to civilian casualties and investigate responsibilities for their deaths, such as the recent strike on an Iranian girls' school that killed hundreds of children. Then CENTCOM Commander Eric Corella, who I assume probably resigned over being told we don't care about civilian deaths, and Joint Chiefs Chair General C.Q. Brown pushed Defense Secretary Hegseth not to slash the Civilian Protection Center of Excellence and other similar initiatives at the American command posts. A number of opponents of the move. Hegseth nonetheless reduced the number of employees working on the issue from 200 to less than 40. The high level of opposition to the cuts, which had not previously been reported, hints at tension between top military officials and their civilian leader over the rules of engagement in combat, which the Pentagon chief has called stupid, which he did. It also comes as a preliminary report suggests the U.S. may have accidentally targeted an elementary school, which killed more than 170 students and is the largest U.S. killing of civilians in decades. Quote, as it turns out, when you kill less civilians, you tend to be putting your own resources into killing the enemy. Says Bryant, who served under Biden and the first Trump administration. When they spend weeks or longer trying to track some guy and then finally kill him and then realize he's just an aid worker, look at all those resources spent and all that time and funding, wasted munitions too, and assets on the wrong person. Well, it's also killed an aid worker, but at least the goals are the same, which is to try to kill as few civilians as possible. We knew there were a lot of cuts. We knew there were cuts in this department, and Politico has just, and we have this article on our Discord. If you want to read that article and a few others, please join us on the Discord. I would also like to play, I think this one, let me make sure. I think this was on what is it? The response, the media response to the White House calling for telling the media how to properly interpret the reality on the ground.
Defense secretaries at time of war, think Donald Rumsfeld during Iraq and so forth, gets frustrated by press coverage because it's the role of the press to ask hard questions about what progress we're making on the battlefield and then how that translates to political victory. I think you could say in Iraq and certainly in the Persian Gulf War, we had big military victories, and at the end, we didn't have the kind of political outcome we were looking for. And that's happened in a lot of conflicts the United States has been in. So when Secretary Hegseth calls for, the reports from a patriotic press, well, I can't think of anything more patriotic than asking hard questions about how we're doing on the field, and then hard questions about whether or not that achieves our objectives. That's what independent journalism is all about. In this particular case, the question is, what is the ultimate political outcome you're trying to get to? And the president has said unconditional surrender. Well, that's got two parts. One part is the military victory, right? Whether or not they have the capability to strike out, whether Iran has the capability to strike out beyond its borders again. And the president could declare on his own that they don't have that capability. The second part of unconditional surrender is a government saying, okay, we completely give up, you take over and sort of run the government, which is essentially what happened in Japan in 1945, for example. And we then had a 7-year-long occupation of Japan. I don't think you're likely to hear that from the Iranians.
So Kharg Island was struck. The president, via Truth Social, early this morning said, quote, I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider. So this was sort of the muscle flex and then some to say, we're giving you an opportunity to open the strait. Your thought?
So first, I think Admiral Stavridis had this exactly right. The president needed a card here to keep the Iranians from mining the strait or using these small, fast boats to go harass shipping. And the card he's chosen, I think it's a smart one, is to show that the U.S. can reach Kharg Island and that ultimately it might be able to go take it over. And, there are as the Times has reported, there are plans underway. We don't think the president has approved them yet to both take over Kharg Island and try to get the uranium out of the main nuclear sites that are remaining. Those would both be very risky operations. But if the president could set up a trade here in which he says the strait remains open, and you'll be able in the end to ship fuel out of Kharg Island, then that might well work. And I think it actually was a strategically smart move.
All right, so the plan that he's talking about is basically take Kharg Island without blowing it up, which is actually very hard to do because it's a little flammable. And they'd probably rather see it destroyed than in U.S. hands. Having said that, if they destroy that island, the damage that they do to themselves. So what he is thinking, that the president is thinking, is take the island, and then say, we'll give it back to you if you open up the strait and give us the uranium. Good luck. His plans have worked out beautifully so far. Dave Marvin gifted 5 in-time memberships. Thank you very much for that. We sincerely appreciate the gift, and hopefully the new members will stay on. So thank you guys very much for that. As I said, we had a lot tonight, and I think we covered all of the important stuff. The healthcare issue is obviously very concerning. People getting their AIDS medication, and I don't know why the price of that medication hasn't come down in 10 years. The medication that I'm aware of, the regime has improved, but the price has not changed significantly. And I'm not sure why that is. But I hope they address that problem. I'm not as optimistic as I could be because it's tied to healthcare, and like the man said at the cold open that we had, Obama did it better. We had healthcare coverage under Obama. It's been lost now for a lot of people, or will be lost soon, and that includes people who will die without that medication. That's not. They will. It may not happen right away, but they will, and it won't be pleasant, and it isn't going to be like a full life, and it's not like 20 years from now. They will see consequences immediately. So between that and the war, Trump is doing a bang-up job. We'll see. I'm not optimistic that he's just going to take the island and offer to trade it. That is higher level thinking than Trump is capable of, but who knows? I may be wrong. Thank you all for joining us. Let me just quickly see if there is anybody that we could raid to. It's a Saturday night, so I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see there. You know what I think we're going to do? So Neil 604 is a buddy of mine, and I met him, and he does deconversion stories, and they have after parties. It can be a lot of fun. I've been to a number of those after parties, so we will send you over there. Say hi to Neil. I will go join you guys there in a little bit, but yeah, those of you who run in the atheist circles, you know exactly who Neil 604 is. He's been around for a while, so we'll send you down to him. Thank you all for joining us, and our next scheduled show is Tuesday, but that's 2 days. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you shortly.